My name is Ethan, I'm 28, and for most of my life I've been the unseen one in my family. You know, the one people forget to message, the one left out of group photos, the one they remember when they need a favor, but never when it truly counts. I grew up with a mom who had a sharp tongue and a selective memory. Somehow, she recalled every mistake I made, but forgot every achievement, every time I helped her, every gift I saved up for. I have a sister, Lily, who learned early that playing perfect got her everything. She smiled, charmed, got good grades, and was treated like a princess. I was the opposite, quiet, skeptical, too honest for my own good. That didn't fit with our family culture, where smiles were currency and truth was a burden. For years, I tried to earn my place. I brought desserts to dinners I wasn't invited to, gifts to birthdays where no one noticed me arriving, and compliments to relatives who never got my name right. I played along at first, thinking if I tried hard enough, they'd eventually see me. But by the time I hit 25, the illusion had shattered. I realized my efforts changed nothing. My place at the table was never going to be secure. Still, there's a certain kind of pain that lingers, no matter how clearly you see it. So when Harvest Feast rolled around last year, I debated whether to go. My cousin Nora was the only person in that tangled web of relatives who treated me like a person. She was 2 years younger, but more emotionally mature than most adults in the room. We'd grown closer over the years. Messages, occasional late-night calls, honest check-ins. So when she texted me the day before the feast saying, "You better show up, I saved you a spot," I gave in. I figured if only for her it was worth showing up again. I drove 40 minutes to my uncle's house where the feast was always held. Picture a classic suburban home, neat lawn, tacky inflatable decoration out front, and the unmistakable scent of butter, spices, and tension drifting from the open windows. I parked in my usual spot, a few houses down, because my uncle's driveway was always full when I arrived late. As I walked up the front steps with a bottle of wine I knew no one would touch, I saw them through the screen door. My mom, my aunt, my sister, my uncle, laughing, talking, smiling like they were in a photo shoot for Dysfunctional Families Anonymous. I didn't expect a warm welcome, but what happened next wasn't just cold, it was intentional. As I reached for the doorknob, the door opened slightly, and there was my Uncle Tom, blocking the way like a human barricade. He didn't greet me or smile. He just looked at me with a smug twitch in his mouth and said, "You're not family anymore, Ethan. You need to leave." At first, I thought it was a joke. I laughed, waiting for the punchline, but he didn't budge. Behind him, I saw my mom pass 2 plates across the table, one with a name card I recognized, mine. She handed it laughing to Lily's boyfriend, a guy I'd barely met. They clinked glasses. My seat was taken before I even stepped inside. "I'm serious," Uncle Tom added. "You showing up just causes tension." I blinked. "Causes tension." I repeated, "I haven't even walked in yet." He gave a fake sympathetic shrug. "Let's not make this worse than it needs to be. Just head home, okay?" I looked past him, locking eyes with my mom. She didn't flinch or intervene. She just raised an eyebrow and sipped her wine like she was watching a mildly amusing show. For a moment, I considered fighting back, raising my voice, making a scene. But I didn't. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I nodded. Calmly, quietly, I stepped back. I walked down those steps, bottle of wine still in hand, got in my car, and drove 2 blocks before pulling over. My hands were shaking, not with anger, but with something colder, something more final. I'd seen all I needed to see. I wasn't family to them. I was a placeholder, a joke, a scapegoat when they needed someone to criticize, and an empty chair when they needed space. But here's the thing. I had something they didn't know about. Months ago, I'd been preparing to stop trying. Something Nora and I had discussed more than once, over whispered calls and shared stories of being overlooked, dismissed, ignored. She wasn't as vocal about it, but she saw it too. The hypocrisy, the favoritism, the manipulation beneath every family gathering. She once told me if we ever wanted to break the illusion, all it would take is one spark. So I picked up my phone, opened the saved message. It had taken weeks to craft, timed just right. It wasn't a rant or a guilt trip, just the truth laid bare, sent to a select group in that house. And I sent it. 5 minutes later, as I sat parked at the corner of their street, engine idling, I watched through the rearview mirror. The front door opened. First, it was Nora storming out, face red with anger. Then my cousin Sam. Then his girlfriend. Then my aunt's best friend, who always brought dessert and had a soft spot for me. One by one, they left. I couldn't hear the shouting inside, but I could imagine. The illusion was cracking, and that was just the start. Nora was the first to call. Her name flashed across my screen before I pulled out of my spot. I picked up, heart pounding, not from nerves, but because I hadn't expected it to unravel so fast. Ethan, she snapped, not waiting for me to speak. What did you just do? You read it, I said. Of course I read it, so did everyone else. Uncle Tom's face turned purple. Your mom tried to play dumb, and Lily just stood there like she didn't know what planet she was on. I could hear the wind rushing past her phone. She was walking fast, maybe pacing, maybe heading to her car. Nora was quiet for a moment, then her voice softened. Why didn't you tell me you were recording them? That was the thing. A few months back, tired of being talked down to, dismissed, and lied about, I'd started collecting proof. Not out of paranoia, but because I was done with the gaslighting. I recorded casual conversations, saved texts, took screenshots. I had video clips of my mom telling Lily to take credit for something I'd done. A voice memo of Uncle Tom saying I only showed up to family events for handouts, even though I never asked for anything. And maybe the worst, a recording from my birthday the year before when they forgot I existed, even though I was sitting right there at the table. That feast message wasn't just a note. It was a compilation, a 5-minute clip of the family's greatest hits of hypocrisy, with context, timestamps, and raw silence between the insults to let it sink in. I sent it to 7 people. Nora, Sam, my Aunt Sarah, my cousin's fiancé, my mom's sister, who was always on the fence, and 2 family friends who'd bought the polished version of the family my mom and Uncle Tom sold. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you caught in the middle, I said quietly. Nora scoffed. I'm already in the middle, but I'm glad you did it. I exhaled, my grip on the steering wheel loosening. Are you okay? I will be. I'm done with them. Click. I sat in the silence of my car, staring out the windshield, watching more cars pull away from the house. A few people stood on the porch, looking confused. My mom's voice rose above them all, shouting something I couldn't make out, but I didn't need to hear the words. I'd heard versions of them my whole life. The next call came from Aunt Sarah. Ethan, she said, breathless, where are you? I debated lying, down the street. Stay there, I'm coming. She hung up, and 5 minutes later she climbed into my passenger seat. Her eyes were wide, not with anger, but like someone who'd stumbled into a truth they weren't expecting. I listened to everything, she said, twice. I said nothing. I never knew it was that bad. I mean, I knew they were cruel sometimes. I just didn't realize how calculated it was. I looked at her. You really didn't know? She winced. I saw pieces. But your mom always made it seem like you were the problem. She said you were dramatic, that you twisted things. I didn't want to believe she'd lie. She didn't lie, I said softly. She edited. Aunt Sarah stared at the dashboard. This is going to rip the family apart. Then maybe it was already broken, I said. That evening I went home to a flood of messages, some angry, some apologetic, some confused. But what stood out was the silence from those who should have spoken. My mom, Lily, and Uncle Tom, not one reached out, not a call, not a word, until the next morning. That's when I saw the post. My mom, in her performative style, had posted a long status online about betrayal, misunderstanding, and private matters being aired for attention. She didn't say my name, but the comments made it clear who she meant. People offered sympathy, called me disrespectful, said things like, you raised him better than that, but something unexpected happened in the thread. Nora commented, so did Sam, then Aunt Sarah. One by one, people pushed back, calling out the manipulation, the double standards, sharing their own stories of being mistreated or lied to. The thread exploded. Some relatives deleted their comments. A few blocked me outright. But the tide had shifted. For once, I wasn't alone. For once, people saw it too. That weekend, I got a message from Lily's boyfriend. I didn't know they were like that. I'm sorry. If I'd known what I was taking part in, I wouldn't have sat in your chair. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The message had been sent, and not just the one in the group chat. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a ghost in my own story. I felt like the author, and that story wasn't finished yet. The Sunday after the feast, I got a knock at my door. I live in a quiet part of town. Nothing fancy, just a modest apartment above a bakery that smells like fresh bread every morning. It's peaceful, unlike the house I grew up in, where every door slam felt like a warning and every holiday dinner was a performance for appearances. I wasn't expecting visitors. Most of my friends had already messaged me after the video spread, some supportive, some shocked. Nora had been calling daily, but I wasn't prepared to open the door and see my dad. We hadn't spoken in nearly a year. He looked older, gray creeping into his beard, his familiar jacket more worn. He didn't smile, just stood there, hands in his pockets, rocking slightly on his heels. Hi, he muttered. Didn't expect to see you, I said. stepping aside but not exactly welcoming him in. He hesitated, then walked in, scanning the apartment. Clean, quiet, filled with small things that made me happy, records on the shelf, a stack of books I had time to read, a framed photo of Nora and me from the one holiday we ditched to grab pizza instead of dealing with the family drama. I saw the video, he said, or clips of it. Your aunt sent it to me. I waited. He sat on the edge of my couch, staring at the floor. Your mom's been losing her mind over this. Says you set her up. Says you twisted everything. I leaned against the counter. Did I? He didn't answer right away, just rubbed his nose like he was trying to press out the tension. I don't know, Ethan. I knew things were bad between you two, but hearing it like that, it was hard to listen to. Hard for who? I asked. For me, he said, because it made me realize I let it happen, for years. And there it was, the first real sentence my dad had ever said that felt like a mirror instead of a dismissal. I didn't speak, I didn't trust myself yet. He shifted. You remember when you were 13 and your mom threw out your sketchbook? I nodded slowly. That day had stayed with me. Months of work tossed in the trash because I'd gotten a B in math. Yeah, she told me you'd drawn something disrespectful. I drew a cartoon of her yelling at me. That was it. He let out a dry laugh. I believed her, never even asked to see it. That was the pattern, I said, surprised at how steady my voice was. She'd say something. You'd nod. Lily would play along, and I'd be left wondering if I was crazy or just not worth the truth. He looked like he wanted to argue but didn't. He just nodded, letting the silence stretch. I can't fix what happened, he said eventually. But I wanted you to know, I see it now. I wish I'd said something sooner. I wish I'd stepped in. I believed he meant it. But part of me knew his regret didn't undo years of complicity. He hadn't been cruel, but he'd been silent. And sometimes silence cuts just as deep. I appreciate you saying that, I said. But I don't know what you want from me. He exhaled. I don't know either. I just wanted to see how you're doing. I'm doing better, I said truthfully. Now that I'm out of it, now that I've stopped pretending they'll change, he nodded. They're planning damage control. Of course they are, I said. They think if they wait it out, people will move on, and will they? He looked tired. Some already have, some are scared to pick sides, but a few, they're furious, especially about the money. Oh. That part, see, I hadn't told anyone outside that message about the money trail. I've been quietly supporting family members for years. Rent, car repairs, even a small loan to Lily when she said she needed to leave a bad relationship. I never asked for it back, never told anyone. I did it hoping it would earn me a place in the family. That stopped 3 months ago. I didn't make a scene. I just redirected my help toward Nora, toward friends, toward people who treated me like a person. The video included a note at the end. This is why I stopped paying for your lives. Apparently that stung more than the audio clips. They're saying you're punishing them, my dad said. They punish themselves, I replied. I just stopped rewarding it. He didn't argue. After a while he stood. I should go. I just wanted you to know you were right about all of it. He started toward the door, then paused. If there's ever a way back for us, I hope you'll let me take it. And then he left. I didn't cry or rage. I just stood there, wondering how long it would take for the next wave to hit. Because I knew the family wasn't done. My mom didn't let go of power easily. Lily never handled humiliation well, and the feast might have been the spark, but Winterfest was coming. If they thought they could pretend nothing had changed, they were in for a surprise. I hadn't even started yet. By the time December arrived, the silence was deafening. The group chat for family Winterfest plans, usually buzzing with potluck assignments and recycled jokes from Aunt Clara, was quiet. The last message was Nora's. Let me know when you're ready to take accountability. No one responded, no reactions, no snide remarks, just a void of guilt posing as peace. I wasn't invited, of course, not that I needed the invite. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was missing something. I didn't need to force a smile through another dinner where Lily's career was celebrated like a global achievement, and mine was ignored. I didn't need to hear my mom laugh at jokes about me or Uncle Tom say things like, Ethan's always been sensitive, like I was a broken machine. I was free now, free from obligation, expectation, and the weight of being the family's punching bag. But I wasn't done. The recording I sent out was just the start. It had shaken their image, forced conversations they didn't want. But it hadn't made them change. They were hiding, licking their wounds, waiting for the drama to fade. I could feel it, that smug belief that I'd eventually disappear and they'd reclaim the narrative. So I made sure they couldn't. I started with the money. Quietly, methodically, without warning, I called in the favors. That $3,000 loan to Lily. I sent a formal letter through my lawyer, stating that while I'd treated it as a gift, her lies about needing to escape a bad relationship voided that. She was still with the guy, by the way, laughing with my mom at the feast in my seat. I gave her 60 days to repay. No threats, no interest, just a paper trail. I canceled the recurring bank transfer covering part of Uncle Tom's property tax. He never asked for help directly, too proud, but years ago he hinted at tough times and I stepped in. Every November I sent the amount due, not this year. On December 3rd, his bank declined the payment. My mom, though, was the biggest one. For 5 years I'd covered her car lease. She never thanked me. It was expected, my duty as her son. I let it slide too long. She didn't know the car was in my name. On December 10th, I repossessed it. The phone calls came like fireworks. First Lily, shrill and furious. Then Uncle Tom, trying to reason with me like I was a tantruming child. Finally, my mom, she didn't yell or cry. She just said, "So this is who you really are?" I replied, "No, this is who you made me become." Click. Winterfest Eve came. I didn't sit alone. I spent it with Nora and a few mutual friends. We made dinner in her apartment, lit candles, played games, and exchanged gifts that didn't need to impress anyone. It was the warmest holiday I'd had in years. Around midnight, Nora poured us wine and sat beside me on the floor, pulling a blanket over our legs. "They called me," she said softly. "Let me guess," I said. "Damage control?" She nodded. "Your mom said I was choosing sides, that I was tearing the family apart." "You are," I said. "The part that needed tearing down." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "She also said she's going to set the record straight." I sighed. "Of course she is." The next morning, I saw what she meant. My mom posted a long status online about families going through hard times, private pain becoming public, and some members being manipulated by false narratives. It was polished denial, no names, no specifics, just enough ambiguity to draw sympathy from those who knew her curated version. I didn't respond or comment. I didn't need to. The truth was spreading on its own. Aunt Sarah posted a short, pointed status. "Sometimes the only way to fix a broken family is to stop pretending it's not broken. Proud of you, Ethan." Sam posted a screenshot of a text my mom sent him years ago, bad-mouthing me after I helped pay for his college books. The caption, we all saw it. We just didn't want to admit it. More people, cousins, old family friends, even one of Lily's old roommates, began commenting, messaging, reaching out. People I hadn't spoken to in years apologized, saying they'd noticed things but didn't know how deep it went. It was like lifting the lid off a pressure cooker. Everyone had stories. Everyone had scars. And now they weren't afraid to share them. A week after Winterfest, I got a handwritten letter from my mom. Not an apology, a warning. She said I was destroying the family's reputation, making enemies I couldn't afford, that there were consequences to embarrassing people publicly. It read like the final act of someone who'd lost control and didn't know how to claw it back. I folded the letter and tossed it in the trash. I didn't need to fight her anymore. The truth was winning. By New Year's Eve, the family had split into 2 camps. Those clinging to the old ways, defending my mom, claiming the recordings were out of context, dismissing every call-out as drama. And those who finally saw clearly. They started their own gatherings. Nora hosted a brunch in January, inviting everyone she trusted. Over 20 people showed up. Uncle Tom wasn't there, neither was Lily, neither was my mom. I've had to grieve, not just the loss of a family I never truly had, but the version of me that kept waiting for their love to come wrapped in approval. I let that version die, buried with the guilt, the people-pleasing, the endless ache for validation. Now I'm living. I started writing again, something I hadn't done since high school. I launched a small freelance business. Nora and I are closer than ever.